in San Francisco. I want to introduce you to Dana Walsh. She's running for Congress from the 8th Congressional District. She's a Republican. The seat is held by Nancy Pelosi, and has been held by Nancy Pelosi for a long, long time. Good morning, Dana. Why on earth do you want this job?
Good morning. Well, a few years ago, it became very obvious, actually when Nancy became Speaker of the House, that we have a government that is totally out of control, and yet we've seen lately that it's intent on controlling every aspect of its citizens' lives. And at some point, you know, Nancy Pelosi is the poster child for this, and she has to be removed as Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm. You ran against her in 2008. You lost.
Yes.
Why do you want to try to run again? Why not just, you know, leave it to somebody else?
Yeah. Well, you know, I had an inkling of what would happen if someone like Obama from the political machine in Chicago hooked up with someone like Nancy Pelosi from the political machine in San Francisco. But I had no idea the scale, the scope, and the speed with which they would try to dismantle our free enterprise system and regulate everything in our country. So I think the American people have really woken up to what's going on and how things happen in Washington, and they really want to see a change. I also, in the last election, ran against Cindy Sheehan, as you know, and I have a Republican opponent sort of in the same field as regards things like national security, homeland security, and foreign policy. So I think there's a real place for a real Republican in this race now.
All right, the primary is held June the 8th, so you'd first have to win the Republican primary before you could actually take on Nancy Pelosi. But tell us a little bit about your background.
I am a small business owner here in the city. I was a retailer in the city for 10 years. I had a specialty furniture store and interior design studio, and now I have my offices at the San Francisco Design Center, so I've had my business there for 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with the ins and outs of San Francisco and how things work here. I've been very involved in the Republican Party, elected 7 times to our Central Committee here, and a Republican. I was president of the Republican Women Federated chapter here, the Nob Hill Republican Women Federated, and have been a spokesperson for the Republican Party on a lot of issues.
Okay. San Francisco, of course, is a pretty darn liberal place. How on earth do you expect to be able to beat Nancy Pelosi as a Republican?
Again, you know, we Republicans talk a lot about that Massachusetts miracle, but I think people have reached the point, you know, one of the things that happened in 2008 was people voted for changing the way things happened in Washington. That was one of the mantras of Obama, and by him handing over the reins of so many of these legislative pieces to Nancy Pelosi, we have actually seen how government works in a way that we'd never done before. I mean, these out-and-out blatant bribes that we have seen in front of our eyes, we now know how Washington works, and I think a lot of people want to see it change.
All right, and what are the main issues that you care about the most?
You know, I have 3 major issues. First and foremost, because we forget about it a lot, is security. And that includes everything from our homeland security, our foreign policy, and issues like that, how we treat terrorists, how we go forward on those issues. Then my second area of concern is freedom and opportunity, because that includes everything relating to taxes and regulation and what government has a part of, because there's many things government is getting involved in that they have no business being in. And the third is reform, because things are not happening in a way the American public want to see them happen. We need a leadership in the Congress that knows how to get solutions to our problems. And I think what we're seeing now, especially embodied by Nancy Pelosi, is that it's all about policy and, it's all about power and politics over policy and people. And the American people want solutions, and I think someone from a business background has a much better way of dealing with problems rather than just managing them. You know, maybe solve some problems for a change instead of managing them.
Okay, Dana Walsh, running for Congress. She hopes to run against Nancy Pelosi after the primary, which is June the 8th out there in California. And by the way, Pelosi asked to grade her how well she did last year. She said, "I think I get an A for effort." So, Dana, best of luck to you.
Okay.
Best of luck to you, and keep us posted in terms of how things are going for you out there.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. You know, that brings us to another race I want to talk about. We're talking a lot